The Opel Astra has grown up. This is the 10th generation of the Astra, if you include its predecessor, the Cadet. Over 10 million have already been sold. The latest version proved to be a challenge for designers and engineers alike. Opel wanted to retain the driving dynamics of the previous model, says Opel's Peter König, while at the same time making significant improvements on the new Astra in areas such as noise reduction and driving comfort. The new Astra is over 17 centimeters longer than before, making it one of the largest in its segment. You may be surprised to hear that Opel once made history in this domain. In the 1930s, Opel built the first car of this size. Thereafter, compact cars played an important role in Opel's car production history. The immensely successful Cadet, produced in multiple variations over the years, was itself replaced by the Astra. Its new, distinctive design, clearly visible here at the front and the rear, distinguished the Astra. Not to mention the big, sleek side view mirrors. A new generation of bi-xenon lights is just one example of how Opel is introducing safety and technical features into the compact segment, which are normally found in the higher standard insignia. Look to the car's rear axle for another example of precision German engineering. Opel has applied Watt's linkage to a so-called compound crank axle, says Volker Striecek. He credits the Scotsman James Watt with inventing the linkage itself, but proudly asserts that Opel developed and patented this entirely new manner of combining Watt's linkage with a torsion beam axle. As for the result, the new Astra suspension works and feels great when put to the test. Even off the track and onto the bumpiest of surfaces, this Astra holds its own. The ride is a bit stiff, but not uncomfortable. Opel also offers the option of a flex ride suspension with its additional sport and tour settings, a choice between a sportier or more comfortable ride. Elements of the insignia are found in the Astra's interior as well, making for a noble look. The flat center console creates a sense of ample space, complemented by the high-quality materials and top-notch workmanship. The comfortable seats offer good lateral support. A selection of 5 gasoline and 4 diesel engines is available in the new Astra. We tested the 1.4-liter 140-horsepower turbo gasoline version, which consumed 5.9 liters of fuel per 100 kilometers. Opel claims 200 newton-meters of torque at 1,850 RPM, but only if you get the engine up into the highest rev range. But even in those higher ranges, the engine remains relatively quiet, and the standard 6-gear transmission allows shifting with ease. The new Astra is a winner, in large part thanks to its excellent suspension. You can get one in Germany starting at 15,900 euros. Certain things evoke specific associations in our mind, says Mathis Kurat. For example, this mouse reminds us of Northern Europe, perhaps Sweden. These noodles, on the other hand, take our thoughts southward towards Italy. With this in mind, says Mathis, let's begin today's comparison. The Volvo V50 versus the Alfa Romeo 159 sports car.
Mit dem Alfa 159 Sportwagen.
The Alfa Romeo 159 has been around since 2005. In 2006, a German car magazine called it the most beautiful automobile in the world. Besides good looks, it also drives well. The Alfa's steering and suspension were designed to hold the road for a sporty feel. And you can choose from among 6 diesel and 3 gasoline engines, generating between 120 and 260 horsepower. We saddled up in a 1.8-liter gasoline-fueled turbo with 200 horsepower. This stallion can accelerate to 100 kilometers from 0 in 7.9 seconds and reaches a top speed of 233. This car has nothing to do with your typical station wagon. Like its Alfa sisters, the Brera and Spider, it's got the aggressive, sporty front end. The Turismo Internazionale package comes standard with 19-inch aluminum rims. And that's not where the sportiness ends. Check out the 2 exhaust pipes and the roof spoiler. Now let's take a look at the solid, matter-of-fact suite, the Volvo V50. With its R-Design package, this Scandinavian exudes a dynamic, sporty feel. 17-inch rims come standard. The 18-inch variation will run you €600 more. Unmistakably Volvo, the broad shoulders. It's hard to find the exhaust on this car, but look closely, it's there. With multiple variations such as 4-wheel drive and start-stop automatic, the Volvo boasts 12 engine types, 8 gasoline and 4 diesel. We chose a 2-liter diesel with 136 horsepower. Not the spunkiest of the lot, but it impressed us with a smooth ride at a top speed of 205 kilometers per hour. It can also reach 100 kilometers per hour in 9.7 seconds. Our test car is equipped with a 6-speed dual-clutch gearbox, available only with this engine. On these well-maintained streets, the V50 makes a very good impression. The car's interior is also classic Volvo. Clean lines and no knickknacks to clutter the center console with its radio and optional telephone controls. The buttons and switches on the instrument panel are easy to operate. The partial leather seats are designed for comfort and come with an electric adjustment option. In the rear, passengers will be pleased by the spacious head and legroom or the optional integrated child seat. The Alfa's interior is also well made. The attractive center console plays host to the fuel, cooling, and boost pressure gauges, but it can be distracting. Typical for the Alfa is the hanging needle in the speedometer and tachometer. Every detail on this car says, "I'm Italian." The seats offer good lateral support. The surface is too long for those with a height of 1.75 meters. There's ample space in the back. So much for design and driving comfort. How practical is this car? You open the Alfa's trunk by pressing on the logo. Behold, it offers between 445 and 1,235 liters of cargo space. The Volvo offers from 417 to 1,307 liters. The Alfa Romeo 159 boasts an attractive and sporty design with Mediterranean charm. But is that enough to give it an edge over its Swedish rival? After all, the Scandinavian handles well and has a lot to offer where practicality is concerned. Italians are famous for their temperament, says Mattis, and that suits the 159 Alfa's sporty suspension and racy interior. The 1.8-liter gasoline turbo engine model that Mattis drove might not have been the right choice, he says, since it burned 4 liters more fuel per 100 kilometers than the factory specifications claim. The average 12.8 liters consumed by the Alfa Romeo are far more than required by this 2-liter Volvo diesel, says Mattis. He cites the average 6.9 liters fuel consumption, the high-quality workmanship, and safety features as grounds to declare Volvo the winner today. The 6th generation BMW 5 Series has finally arrived. You can't miss its striking exterior with the longest wheelbase in its segment, a longer hood, and coupe-style flowing roofline. The latest model was launched with a choice of 7 engine types, but you won't find an environmentally friendly hybrid among them until sometime in the spring of 2011. The world's first speed bike show is premiering at the Essen Motor Show, where motorcycle enthusiasts will catch a glimpse of over 50 bizarre bikes. One highlight is the Gun Bus, the biggest drivable bike in the world. It's 1.56 meters high and 3.44 meters long. With its 120 razor-sharp spikes on each tire, ice is no problem for the TGS Epster. No museum in the world documents the history of Mercedes like the one in Stuttgart. The journey in time begins under the roof with the founders of Mercedes, Gottfried Daimler and Karl Benz. In 1886, their motorized carriages laid the groundwork for the car. Former race car driver Hans Hermann says they were brilliant men who looked ahead even though they had to deal with a lot of criticism and were ridiculed to some extent. The development of the automobile is shown in the context of various time periods at the Mercedes-Benz Museum in Stuttgart. It offers a lot of photos and video footage, in addition to the original vehicles. The visitor can wander through 5 kilometers of history, covering 120 years. Michael Bock says the museum doesn't simply want to give visitors a history of cars or the Mercedes-Benz brand or the Daimler company. It also wants to show the world. From the beginning of the 20th century, Mercedes wanted to produce faster cars. The luxury convertibles with supercharged engines were magic during the Roaring '20s, and Hans Hermann looks for his favorite Mercedes among the diesel-powered cars of the 30s. He says it's here somewhere. And then he's delighted to spot it. He says it's the first car he took a ride in as a child. His dad took one for a test drive from Stuttgart to Ulm, where they had some relatives. He said, we had to visit the relatives. He said he kept on looking at the speedometer to see how fast it could go. It probably went 125 downhill. Its speed was unbelievable, he adds. The experience left a mark on him. He too became part of history as the driver of a silver Arrow in the 1950s. He says it was the ultra-fast streamliner W196. Many race cars are on display here. Hans says they're of course genuine and great and bring back fond memories. He says this was the streamliner W196, the very first car he drove in Formula One.
Stromlinien W196, das war mein erster Einsatz überhaupt beim Formel 1.
The young Hans Hermann drove for the Mercedes factory team, along with international stars like Sterling Moss and Juan Manuel Fangio. From that time, Mercedes cars were part of his life, even off the racetrack. The 180 Ponton, for example. Hans says the Pontons were their company cars, which they had wherever they went to race. Moss had one, he had one, and of course Fangio had a convertible, this one. There was a small difference. Every once in a while, he borrowed a 300 SL to take a spin. The legendary sports car of the 1950s was also Elvis Presley's favorite. The Beatles also drove Mercedes models. Paul McCartney loved the tail fin. In 1984, Ringo Starr had this 190 upgraded. Nowadays, celebrities prefer to drive a Mercedes hybrid like this one. He says that the automobile industry is currently going through a phase it has already seen. At the turn of the century, there were already electric cars. The government prevented their production because the First World War broke out. We've come full circle. Electric cars are once again playing a major role. There's a lot to learn from the company's history, and a tour of the Mercedes-Benz Museum is a great opportunity to do just that.